Everyone. I wanted to take a few minutes and talk to you about anxiety since we are all feeling a level of anxiousness because of this coronavirus and all the uncertainties that are attached to that. First of all, anxiety occurs because a lot of times in our mind we are thinking about problems. And anxiety happens because our mind has not found a solution to those problems. And usually, our anxious thoughts revolve around either past situations, present situations, or future situations. We all experience various levels of anxiety. Some of us are on a low scale, and some of us are on a high scale. So, what are some things that you can do to mitigate anxiety right now and not to fuel it? It's very important not to fuel the anxiety that we are feeling in this situation. Even on a given day, on a very normal life experience, we have lots of anxieties with our jobs, our families, and relationships, and things of that nature. And now that we have this kind of social issue going around, it's really inflamed right now. There are some things that we can do. First of all, it's important to become self-aware. So when you wake up in the morning, it's really good, especially if you have a proclivity to anxiety, is to be very self-aware and wait when you wake up. Put yourself on a scale. How are you feeling when you wake up? If the scale is 1 to 10 and 1 is I feel great, I could go to Disneyland and it's wonderful, I just feel really very good, and 10 being I feel just the worst I've ever felt in my life. Usually we're somewhere on that scale. If you were somewhere between a 1 and a 6, 7, that's kind of a very normal scale to slide up and down on. But if you're past a kind of at an 8 and certainly not in 10, then you really need to take drastic actions to lower those levels of anxiety. When you get up each morning, ask yourself, where am I at on the scale? And then begin to ask yourself several questions. Um, because it's very clear, and research has shown that what you're thinking, how you think, and what you do actually can have a direct impact on the levels of anxiety that you feel. I am a soul care counselor. I work inside the church. I have my undergraduate degree in biblical counseling, and I am a certified biblical counselor as well. And I've been counseling for over 8 years. But regardless if you're a Christian, non-Christian, you practice a different faith, we are all of the human race, and we all have mental health issues. And there are many things that all of us can do to mitigate a lot of misery in that area. So, being specific is important. So, first of all, evaluate yourself, ask yourself some questions. Why are you feeling this way? And be specific at what is driving your anxiety. Is it a lack of control that you're feeling? Feeling out of control a lot of times has very negative impact on our mood. And really, coming right out of the gate, it's important for you to know that there are certain things that you can control and things that you cannot control. So that's a very important understanding to have, because if you realize that you can control some things and there's some things that you can't control, well, you don't spend a lot of mental activity thinking about what you can't control, right? You just work on what you can control. So what we can control are, we can control our thoughts, we can control what we say, and we can control what we do. The things that we cannot control is we cannot control other people, we cannot control what they think, and we certainly cannot control what they do. And we cannot control the outcome of situations, regardless if we're part of it or not. We really can't control what the final output is. So if you know that you can control what you think, what you say, and what you do, and that you can't control what other people, what they think and what they say and what they do, or the outcome, then you need to spend time in what you can control. So, are you feeling, so is it an issue of control that's driving your anxiety? Is it thoughts of the uncertain future that is driving your anxiety? Perhaps it's feelings of guilt. People have feelings of guilt can cause high levels of anxiety, and a lot of times that revolves around past actions or what they've done. And you can't control the past. You can only control what's going on right now, what you can do right now, and you can't control the future. So what you do now actually will impact your future. So who you are right now, that like for me, Charlene, I go with Zelda or Charlene, but the decisions that Charlene makes now, the future Charlene is going to either gain the benefit or suffer the consequences. So I want the present Charlene to make the best decisions for the future Charlene as possible. So if we think in those terms, you'll realize that you will have some impact on your life greatly, and with a great deal of positivity or negativity. Sometimes procrastination, I wouldn't say sometimes, I would say all the time, procrastination causes a lot of anxiety. So if you're a procrastinator, that's something that you need to come to grips with. And just like a student who receives the syllabus at the beginning of the semester, if they do not do any of the assignments till the last 2 weeks of school, they're going to have very high levels of anxiety. Whereas the student who took the syllabus seriously, did the assignments as they went along in the semester, when they get to the last 2 weeks of the semester, they're not going to have so much anxiety. So procrastination is not your friend. It is not going to help you. Be proactive. Develop proactive activities that will help you to not fall into the trap of procrastination. And sometimes we have feelings of failure that drive our anxiety. We have thoughts that, oh, I've failed that person, or I've failed at that situation, or whatever it could be, and that drives your anxiety. You just start ruminating about how you're a failure, you'll never get anywhere, you'll never do anything. Well, that is not a really accurate thought. So that leads me to another thing that you can do. Those are all some ideas of what drives anxiety-ridden thoughts. Um, some things that you can do to mitigate those. Number one, take a couple of days and write down your anxious thoughts, the things that are causing you anxiety. Write them down. Take 2 days. I mean, ideally, I would send someone home with a week's worth of journaling and recording those thoughts. But we're in such a strange time now. Take 2 days, and at the very least, take at least one day and write down your anxious thoughts, because the idea is that you find a theme that kind of percolates to the top. You're able to identify the one or two or three driving thoughts that are causing your anxiousness. And once you are aware of what those thoughts are, then you can start evaluating them. It's very important for you to realize that you are not your thoughts. That just because you think something doesn't mean that's who you are. So, for example, going back to the failure thought, I failed at that. Just because you failed at something doesn't make you a failure. I have failed at many things in my life, but I have made some other decisions to counteract those kind of things. So everyone fails. It's what you do with that failure moving forward, and it's making plans to move forward in a very positive way. So so you are not your thoughts. So think of it like this. Think of thoughts as a river, and thoughts go in that river and they just keep going down, but you are the person up on the bank, and you get to judge those thoughts, whether those thoughts are valid thoughts, accurate thoughts, or false thoughts. If they are false thoughts, let those thoughts keep going down the river. Don't let them repeat in your mind, and be aware of them. And if they are proper thoughts, then there's things that you can do about that. But a lot of times our anxiety comes from very false thinking or stinking thinking. It comes from thinking and bad thinking that's actually not valid or correct, and we let that ruminate in our thoughts over and over, and it causes us so much anxiety. And there's a lot we can do if we know what those thoughts are. So after you have evaluated that thought, is it a true thought or a false thought, then you can set to work. You can, in your journal or wherever, write down possible solutions to the problem. For example, a lot of people are being laid off from their work, and sometimes they may be thinking about the future and they don't know where they're going to find their job or what they're going to do. So their thoughts go to, I've lost my job. Now we're not going to have any money. We're going to be out on the streets. And then they just start panicking and thinking about those kinds of things. But that person needs to be aware that there are things that they can do. First of all, it's not a correct thought, because they have different skills that they can develop. They're a human being, and they can develop skills to earn a living. They can bring in other family members to help them. There are possible solutions that they haven't really thought of. They could, sell the house, move to a different place, get a different job. There's lots of options if you sit down and have a good time of thinking of possible solutions and bring in other family members. Maybe they have some really good solutions as well. So after you've thought about those solutions, the next step is to work toward those solutions. Do things every day to work to that solution. For example, of losing a job, then work toward applying for different jobs. Do so many applications a day if you can. Try to get some interviews, and so on and so forth. That's being proactive. That means you're working toward a goal. Anytime we're working toward a goal and we're not spending time just thinking about the worst possible scenario, our anxiety levels go way down, because we're feeling a sense of purpose and we're doing something about it. We're investing in our future. And so those are some ideas that will help you in this time of anxiety. We all can think of terrible scenarios right now. A lot of us are really concerned about our loved ones who are at risk for the coronavirus, our parents or our grandparents or loved ones. And we want to be able to not think about the worst case scenario. Instead of thinking about, what if my mom gets this, or what if my grandparents get this, they're certainly going to die because they're so compromised in their health. Instead of thinking like that, pick up the phone, call your loved one, make sure they know every guideline there is to know about the coronavirus, and ensure that they have that knowledge and that they're taken care of in that way. We can't control if someone dies. Only God's in control of those things. So as Christians, we have a faith in Christ. We have a faith that God is sovereign over all things, and that in the end, we're all going to die. We just don't know what, we don't want to die of this, right? So, having a strong faith, having a calm demeanor, and being self-evaluative and helping other people in this is very important. That's one of the reasons I'm posting these videos, is because I'm hoping it will help some of you to mitigate some of the anxiety and pressures that you're feeling. We all are praying for one another and wishing each other the best. So take care of your mental health during this time. If you are not a help to yourself in your mental health, you're not going to be much help to other people. So take care of yourself mentally. Make sure you're resting at a very increment time. Go to bed at the same time, get up at the same time, do the same things. When you get up, get dressed for the day. Don't just slouch around. That makes you feel bad. Make sure you have a viable schedule, whether that schedule, since you're not working, you go out and work on your yard or help somebody else do something. Well, we don't want to get, never mind about that, because we want to be social distancing, but do whatever you can to keep a normal schedule. That helps a lot. Stay within that. And make sure you're eating properly as much as you can. That means no eating, you're home a lot more. So we have a tendency to eat comfort eating. Don't do that. Really be aware of what you're eating. Drink a lot of water. There are a lot of things you can do in your health holistically to help your mental health as well. So just realize that you are your first mental health advocate, and you can go a long way in helping yourself. Don't be lazy. Be careful what you're thinking, because you talk to yourself more than anybody in the whole world put all together will talk to you. So say correct things to yourself, encouraging things to yourself, and be proactive in your health, because this is a time that other people need you, and you can overcome more than you think that you can. So if this video has been helpful, go ahead and share it and subscribe to my YouTube channel. More of this will be coming in the future. So take care and have a great rest of the day. Bye.